Abraham Awolich, my friend, thank you for taking time to join me today. Many people might be looking at you and saying, I know that face. I know that man from somewhere. And I'm just going to say right off the very beginning, Abraham Awolich is known as one of the lost boys of Sudan, but he is not lost these days. He is very, very much focused on where he is, where he's going, and what he's doing. And Abraham, thank you for joining us. I want to start off by asking you, if you will, tell us about the situation in South Sudan. You've gone through some things in the last year or so. You've gone through a lot over the years, but the last year or so has seen some significant changes, including you returning to the U.S. So tell us about that story briefly.
Thank you very much, Brother Green, for inviting me for this show this morning. I really appreciate you, and also to thank you for your service, which you have been given to the people of the United States and the world for many years now. Now, the situation in South Sudan is a sad situation, and it is important for the American people to know that in 2011, with the huge support from the United States and the international community, South Sudan declared independence. And that time was an exciting time, both for the people of South Sudan and those who have supported the people of South Sudan across the world, and mostly in Africa. The hope was that the people of South Sudan, at least for the first time in their lives, would determine their future, and that they were going to use the abundant resources given to them by God to build their country and to improve the lives of their people who have been neglected for many years. And that peace was once again going to be established. However, since independence, South Sudan had peace briefly between 2011 and 2012. And by 2013, South Sudanese leaders fought over leadership and took the country back to a civil war. And so last year, we marked the first decade since the independence of South Sudan. And so a number of us who have been following events in the country issued a statement looking at how we have performed in the last 10 years. And the review was extremely negative, that the country has not experienced peace. There has been a lot of corruption that has been going on, and so much killing, so much blood for no reason other than for political power. And that we could not continue on that path, that there was a need for South Sudan to go back on the track of peace and development and democracy. South Sudan has grown more as an authoritarian state where people are not free to speak and people are arrested arbitrarily. Ethnic divisions are being flamed and fanned by political leaders. And so we came out and rejected that. And we said, that is not the South Sudan we fought for, and that is not the South Sudan that we stand for, and that the time has come for change. And so that is what provoked the government, obviously, to issue an arrest warrant for us and obviously threaten our lives. We were told to be brought to justice, either dead or alive.
Yeah.
And so that is what happened last year.
So, and you had to immediately leave the country, and I think that that was really unfortunate on many levels. But part of the reason why it was so unfortunate was because you had to leave the day, I guess, a day or a week after the Suit Institute, which was your venture to address and deal with many of these issues facing South Sudan and beyond, was opened, and it was because of a direct threat to arrest you. Is that correct?
Right. Well, I was the CEO and head of the South Institute, which is a policy research organization that has been advising the government on matters of governance and services to the people for 10 years. It was shut down immediately after we made the statement, and that it could not be reopened until I tendered in my resignation, which I did by the 23rd of November last year. I tendered in my resignation to enable the organization to reopen. So the government obviously wants to make sure that there are no uh, uh, opinions that are against its authoritarian rule, and that every institution that is there in the country can only operate if it is able to toe the line.
Yeah.
And the Said Institute was not in the business of towing the line. And so Professor Jog Madut, who was the previous director, and myself had to resign for the organization to be reopened.
Yeah. So you had to leave the country, correct? And what did you do and where did you go?
Well, left the country in October. We got into the crisis on the 30th of July, and we basically had actually we had actually organized a protest against the arrest of one of our colleagues, Quilla Gurikwil, who has been in jail now for 100 and 22 days today. No, not 100, 422 days today. He has not been formally charged and he has not been taken to court. So we had organized a protest against the government for his arrest. And obviously the government cracked down on that protest, didn't happen. And they continue to pursue us. So in the end, if we want to continue to be a voice, we had to leave the country. And we went into the region, into Uganda, into Tanzania, and then came here in October to the United States in October 2021. And so that is the journey that it took.
What is your current situation now? I had the pleasure of sitting with you and being with you at the Vermont Council of World Affairs about a week or so ago when you were honored as their Person of the Year, and that is an honor that I think was well deserved for the work you've done and everything that you've done. I mean, you, for those who don't know, spent a long time in Burlington, Vermont, which is where this council is located and the meeting took place. But anyway, you were honored there, and I'm glad I've had the chance to. I was there with you, but I want to talk to you about your situation now that you've been back in the country this time, and how things are, and where you find yourself.
Well, since I got here, I came purposely both to seek safety, but also to raise awareness about the situation in South Sudan. And so I have been engaging some members of Congress and people within the US government to inform them that the situation in South Sudan is not getting any better, and it could get worse before it gets better. And so that demands that the United States pays more attention to South Sudan and to support people who are raising their voices that the country should go back to democracy. And so I have been doing that advocacy work. I had hoped to get a job, but I haven't gotten that job that I was looking for, because I felt that if I go ahead and get a job right away, that I may lose track of my advocacy work. And I didn't want to lose focus. So for now, for the last 1 year, I haven't had a job, and I have focused on trying to raise this awareness and to actually also mobilize the South Sudanese people who are here in diaspora and also within the country, that the time has come for those who desire to see democratic reforms in South Sudan to speak out. And so we recently created what we call National Consensus Forum. And this is a space where various opposition groups and civil society get together to discuss about the fundamental issues that we believe have brought the country to where it is now, and to chart a way forward in terms of how do we get the country back on track. And this is what this is part of my advocacy, trying to say that such initiatives should be supported both politically, financially, and morally, because that's the only way you can tilt the balance of authoritarianism in South Sudan, is to mobilize the more number of people who are willing and who are able to speak up to demand that there must be reforms in the country, and that the country cannot be run in the way we have seen it, where a number of warlords have grown more than the number of entrepreneurs. And the country is totally bankrupt. People are really, you could say the poverty level is far worse than even the peace agreement in 2005. People are extremely poor right now. And you could say probably about 90% of the population has fallen below the poverty line. And so that is where I am now.
So, what kind of response have you gotten here in the U.S. from Congress, from other stakeholders, and I guess from the Sudanese population in the diaspora here?
Well, we found among the South Sudanese in diaspora, we found a lot of enthusiasm, and because people are frustrated. Many people from South Sudan work 2 to 3 jobs here in the United States to keep up the country, to keep the country afloat. They are actually the ones supporting educational system, health, and food, feeding their families, feeding relatives, and keeping them in school or seeking medical facilities. The government has provided that job. And so they are frustrated. And so they won't change. The US Congress also has been very responsive. And we saw last year they passed a resolution in the Senate by 100% number of members supported it, that there is a need for the United States to change its policy towards South Sudan. And so where matters are going slow is on the executive side, where the president seem to have his hands are full with the situation in Ukraine and domestic issues, and there has been little attention paid to events in Africa, and in particular to events in South Sudan. And that is exactly where our advocacy is. We want to change that. We want President Biden to pay attention to the situation in South Sudan, and for the American people not to give up on the people of South Sudan. South Sudan was brought to life because of the support of the American people. And we don't want to lose that. There is hope in the support of the United States to the people of South Sudan. And when that support is not there, the situation can be very bleak and very unpredictable.
That is absolutely correct. And I guess the last thing I'll ask you, Abraham, is how can ordinary Americans help in this situation?
Well, there are 3 ways the American people can help. One way is, and we have found this in 2001, is for them to talk to their government through their representatives, senators and members of the Congress, to pay attention to South Sudan. And number two is for them to support initiatives like the PCCA, which is the People's Coalition for Civil Action, or the umbrella organization, the National Consensus Forum. They can support it by inviting people like us to speak in their schools or in the church or other places where people gather so that they can know more. Or they can, the third way is they can provide financial support. And for now, we have a charity organization based in Burlington called SUDEF, which is Sudan Development Foundation, basically. That's, and it's SUDEF.org, where people can make some donations to support some of the work that we are doing. And so I think that's what we hope to do, or people like you in the media to get the story to be heard. South Sudan has disappeared in the news simply because it is no longer a priority in the U.S. Policy. And so we are basically now in it's almost a dark hole. Nobody hears from South Sudan. Nobody knows what is happening, but there is so much stuff going on. Our government, for example, last year, this past month, executed people by firing a squad. It rounded up people that it thought were his opposition and shot them and burned one of the people in the house alive because he is considered to be an opposition. In the past, this would have made international news because it is an act so brutal and against human rights that it should not be tolerated. Yet nobody heard about it. And so this is also part of supporting the people of South Sudan, is to get the media involved to understand more what is happening.
Well, Abraham Awolich, we are watching. We will stay focused, and we will stay in touch with you and the situation. And I'm hopeful that you'll come back and talk to us soon. Thank you again for joining us today with this story. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time, and I hope to be back very soon. Thank you so much.